Hi, I'm Brian Schneider with Mid-Hudson Injury Law. I'm going to be talking about technology and how it continues to infect everyday life in ways that most people probably don't even think about until it's staring them right in the face. What prompted this today, in my mind, was this lawsuit that was filed in the last few days against Google, involving the surviving family members, parents, I believe, of a young man who killed himself in Florida after engaging in what is literally an incredible back and forth dialogue with his Gemini AI chatbot. In this instance, I actually pulled the summons and complaint, or the complaint that was filed in federal court, filed by the estate's lawyers, and the verbatim exchanges and text between the young man who took his own life and his AI chatbot are incredible. This is something that if you're interested in evolving technology and the way that the complexity and the depth of exchanges that can happen in between users of AI and their chatbots, I would encourage you to read the pleadings in this case. It is an incredible back and forth between the human user and its AI interface. The causes of action or the theories of recovery being alleged in the lawsuit are fairly standard. It's strict products liability, it's a failure to warn, there's standard negligence causes of action in the pleadings. Those are essential products liability claims that you see in any number of contexts involving more traditional, say, tangible products, whether it be a defective saw, a defective airbag in a car, things of that. The allegations are generally the same, but the factual allegations in the lawsuit read like a science fiction book. And I've read science fiction my entire life. We've all seen movies, and people might scoff at some of the general themes when they surface into everyday general contemporary culture. But I defy anybody to read the allegations, the factual verbatim citations of text exchanges of spoken exchanges between this young man and his chatbot, and tell me that they are not blown away by what they're seeing. The lawsuit alleges that the sophistication of the Gemini chatbot permitted conversation between them, which took a romantic turn, especially when the chatbot started responding with affectionate language like my king and my love. The complaint also includes flat out, again, text citations to the Gemini chatbot telling him to make off the books weapons purchases to carry out what could be considered catastrophic attacks at very public places. That's actually one of the differences or distinctions in this AI lawsuit when compared to some previous ones. And a lot of the previous ones that I've read about involved chatbots uh, being so seductive that it talked or persuaded its users into killing themselves. That's here too. That set of facts is here too. But one thing that's a little different is that this particular relationship, if you will, that developed between this young man and his Gemini chatbot actually encouraged him to potentially take out actions, to take, violent action against third parties and at other places, real world places, Miami International Airport, for example, where he was being told essentially to try and interrupt the delivery of some sort of robot. The complaint is about 42 pages long. And one of the things that it highlights is how a former Google software engineer working on Gemini's predecessor became so concerned that uh, the technology had become sentient that he reported this to Google and reportedly was fired and dismissed as a result. Google fires him and, of course, dismisses his claims as being wholly unfounded. But the estate's lawyer in this case, which was filed in Northern District Federal Court, or excuse me, in District Court in California, uh, grabs and seizes upon that. Why? Because they want to use that type of history to show that Google absolutely had reason to know that this technology is borderline off the rails, if not completely out of control. In reviewing this complaint and in just thinking about the technology concerns as they continue to evolve, it just brings about some notions and some things that I've just observed and many of us have experienced in our own lives. Technology is clearly continuing to outpace human evolution. Right? Things are moving so rapidly, it can be very hard for people to catch up and appreciate how they are impacting and affecting us uh, while it's actually happening. Things aren't actually happening so much in real time. That is our ability to realize the impact, or we're not necessarily able to appreciate how technology like this becomes so insidious until it's too late. Those words are not used in the lawsuit paperwork filings from this family, but there's no doubt in my mind that center to part of some of the themes that their lawyers will likely seize upon will be corporate greed. Corporate greed has been a dominant theme in personal injury litigation for many, many years, whether it be large scale uh, manufacturing product defect cases. For example, like the airbag, the Takata airbag litigation of not too many years ago, the Ford Pinto litigation from many years ago, where it became, in that case in particular, obvious that corporate greed was driving a lot of the decision making in the boardrooms of these companies. And what do I mean in plain English? That they were willing to absorb, the corporations are willing to absorb catastrophic losses like this one potentially facing Google with this California lawsuit in order to keep things going, to keep their products available, to make their products more attractive, to make their products more seductive to their potential consumer base. Again, that doesn't leap off the pages necessarily in black and white in the lawsuit paperwork filed by this young man's family, but I'm sure that will be something that comes up because when you have corporations as large and as influential as Google, as Meta, as we discussed in that social addiction video from a couple of weeks ago, there's no question that the plaintiff's lawyers are going to be focusing in some way, shape, and form on how the corporation is profiting from the availability of this technology and the pervasiveness in which they are wanting us to incorporate their technology into our everyday lives. So, cite for our viewing audience one of the allegations that the plaintiff lawyers have included in their complaint. This is worth a verbatim read here. It alleges that Google or Alphabet, the parent company, designed Gemini AI to maintain narrative immersion at all cost, even when that narrative became psychotic and lethal. This is a fascinating read, which unfortunately is underscored by a tragedy involving the loss of life. It's obvious that this is something that's not going to go away. The complexity of the technology is only going to continue to evolve. Human reliance is only going to continue to evolve and probably adapt to it more and more. There are numerous authors on this subject, past and present, which are worried about the capacity for people to keep up and to understand and appreciate how this technology is affecting them. Personal injury litigation, the way to maintain balance, I don't know, but it's an avenue that is worthy of exploration, especially when you're dealing with facts that are as riveting and downright just astonishing, to at least keep some checks on companies which have unrivaled influence in our lives. If you think about the Apples and the Alphabets and the Metas of the world, these companies are at sizes uh, and making money in ways that previous generations of corporations could only dream about. The influence they have is unparalleled in human history. It certainly doesn't hurt my feelings to have people file lawsuits against these companies because it does provide an important check on their far-reaching and fast-growing and, again, unparalleled influence that they had in our society. This is definitely a case I will continue to follow personally, and I welcome any comments that you may have on this subject. They'll be far-reaching, and I'm sure very and varied, but this is a conversation that is worth having, even with people close to you.